The FPS is a group of member companies working within the geotechnical and ground engineering sector that work together to drive change within the industry to improve health and safety and well-being, sustainability, commercial and technical issues. In general, piling operations is one of, and in many cases, the first subcontractors to work on a construction site. The work can be dirty, the rigs are heavy and tend to be rather large. Lots of associated equipment such as casing, cages and augers are needed along with attendant plant such as cranes, excavators and dumpers. It's not practical or safe to stack this equipment and therefore large areas of floor space may be required. There are also many daily vehicle movements such as reinforcement cage and concrete deliveries and muck away leaving the site. This leads to the need for certain facilities to be immediately available in order for the piling to safely commence in a satisfactory manner and also in accordance with the legislation.
Big old bits of kit when you get up next to them, aren't they? Yeah.
We need to understand the power, the forces, the pressures and the masses involved in our activities. Everything out there is harder, heavier, stronger and quicker than we are, so segregation is key. Our teams work in harsh environments, in all weathers. Depicting an idealised environment is not realistic, but we can all make things better little by little. Consistent site safety standards are critical with such a transient workforce. Our workforce works nationally, but also many people will work for different companies within the same year. Here are some areas where injuries can occur.
Hand injuries.
A high proportion of injuries reported are hand, arm or upper body injuries. Wearing gloves will not necessarily be enough. Keeping distance between our teams and heavy loads is important. Where separation is not always possible, extra precautions or innovations can help, like hands being injured joining cages, joining sonic logging tubes, joining augers and changing teeth.
Working at height.
Risks from working at height can be a fitter working on a large machine. The use of mobile elevated working platforms or mutes is common, but pre-use checks are extremely important. Working platforms on the sides of the rigs and the cranes create trip hazards when they become storage areas for tools and stores. Something as simple as cleaning the windows on the rig or the crane needs a safe system of work. Initiatives such as bucket on the ground and thumbs up can prevent unnecessary plant movements and highlight when plant items are safe to approach.
Lifting.
Lifting injuries can occur in our tremie operations and cage lifting, especially as our teams like to be hands-on. Lifting operations should be thoroughly planned and carried out by authorised personnel while segregated from other operatives on site.
Permits to dig.
When it comes to a permit to dig, we should be inquisitive about the source of the information. Service strikes are still occurring on many piling projects and in particular on inner city sites. In nearly all cases, a permit to dig is issued, confirming underground obstructions and services are not present. Investigation findings have confirmed in as many as 50% of the cases that there is documented evidence of the service and the site investigation has failed to find it, usually owing to an ineffective search. Where services are known, their presence should be confirmed and highlighted on site. If services are within 2 metres of a pile location, they should be physically located and as appropriate, relocated, protected or removed.
Exclusion zones.
Exclusion zones are the separation of people and plant and different items of plant. Rigs, cranes, excavators and delivery lorries. When planning the work, restricted zones must be considered to ensure our staff, as well as others, are kept out of harm's way. A restricted zone is an area where only authorised personnel can enter or stand during normal piling operations. It is important to remember there is a serious risk of injury or death from being struck by falling objects or from moving plant and equipment within a restricted zone. We are trying to change people's behaviours, very much like social distancing during COVID. through a reminding system of barriers which need to be consistently in place across the Federation. Inexperienced people may not spot the hazard, and experienced people may become complacent. Permanent works designers and their structural engineers should be assisting by designing pile plans that do not require placement in very tight spaces, and principal contractors should be assisting by sequencing works to avoid this.
Vehicle and people segregation.
Workplace transport is one of the biggest causes of incidents in the workplace, accounting for about 70 fatalities each year. The majority of these accidents are preventable by good traffic and pedestrian management, which considers the numbers and types of vehicles and constantly changing site environment. Sites should, as a minimum, have suitable segregated pedestrian routes for access between welfare and the work areas, have a designated non-pedestrian access for vehicles with a gate man to provide instruction and direction, and ideally a one-way system around the site. Where pedestrian routes cross vehicle routes, they should have a clear visibility with no obstructions for drivers and pedestrians. Warning signs should be provided for drivers and pedestrians indicating crossing points. Planned traffic routes should be agreed with the piling contractor and, where applicable, take into account any concrete hose routes, movement and crossing points.
Cards and training.
The operatives will hold the CPCS categories for the relevant type of job role that's being carried out. Due to the specialist nature of the works, this should be supplemented by specific training on specific plant items such as different types of rigs and concrete agitators. Periodic assessments of all these involved with the process should be carried out and recorded by a competent person to verify the continuation of safe standards and to assess any further training needs.
Working platform.
The stability of tracked plant is fundamentally dependent on the provision of a suitable and sufficient working platform. It must be properly designed and installed to a recognised standard.
Near misses.
When it comes to near misses, report them so someone doesn't have your accident. It's the most effective way to stop an accident happening.
Concrete pumping.
We are often working with high pressure systems at 70 to 100 bar. Compare that to a car tyre at 2.5 bar. Risk can occur from blockages, delivery wagons, unchecked pipelines, whip checks and plant crossing hose lines.
Welfare facilities.
The provision of suitable and sufficient welfare arrangement continues to be one of the main frustrations for piling contractors on site. Being one of the first contractors on site, the piling contractor is usually working out of temporary accommodation until the main welfare and office arrangements are constructed. Piling work is dirty and is carried out in all weathers. Because of this, it is essential that the welfare requirements are correct from day one and include scope for growth as follow-on trades start work.
Third-party protection.
Third-party protection needs consideration. Piling operations are commonly carried out to the full extent of the site, such as around the perimeter hoarding, which introduces a risk to third parties.
Temporary lighting.
Background and task lighting to the working surfaces is required to allow safe working and safe access and egress, and to facilitate execution of the specialist work.
Planning.
On a new project, there will always have a pre-start plan and a programme in place. However, once on site, the plan and the programme may constantly change, and therefore the need for a regular, even daily planning and updating is required.
What we have learnt from this video.
We want our workforce to feel supported by the Federation and clear around what they can expect from our member companies. Also clear around their responsibilities. We want to raise awareness to share knowledge, emphasise critical repeat issues and promote the stop and think hold point when something changes. The workforce is the solution and not the problem. They need to be given the tools, information and empowerment to work safely. In return, they need to use the tools, follow the guidance and speak out when things are not right.